Hey guys, the Ace, and I just now seem to got over my little bout of COVID right now. So that's pretty good. I can actually go out and do stuff, of course, wearing a mask and things, and I can finally go back to work. So I can actually earn money instead of just rotting away in my house for the past nearly week and a half. So that's looking pretty up and positive. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, positivity. But not just any kind of positivity. I'm talking a positivity that's so positive it actually reverses course and actually starts being bad. Something so good and that good is good, it starts turning it bad. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about toxic positivity and how that more or less screwed up probably a good solid year of my life from the end of 21 to about halfway through 22. First, let's get some definitions out of the way. First, what is toxic positivity in the context of which I'm talking about? Toxic positivity, for what we're going to be talking about, is the idea and the notion that any negative feelings, emotions, all that need to be avoided at all cost. You know, oh, dispel all those bad vibes. They're all bad for you. You got to think positive and happy and upbeat. That's when I think being positive turns more toxic. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with being positive and being happy. Hell, I'm a bit more happier than I am now. It's just the problem is when the positivity starts coming into dismissing people's feelings or dismissing your own feelings and starts turning into a form of control, that's when I think the positivity goes bad and becomes toxic. So again, I don't think anything bad of someone who wants to, be happy all the time. Great. More power to you. I like that you could be so happy and upbeat when others can't. I am so happy for you and I wish you well. But the problem is when that happiness or that positivity starts souring other things. And yes, it can sour other things. So, with that, how did toxic positivity actually affect me? A little bit of background. As I stated, I did graduate college. And college was one of the worst experiences of my life. Hands down. It was awful. The one really good thing to come out of it was meeting Cosmic. But other than that, I would never have gone to college if my parents would have said, no, you have to go. My mom has a PhD, so naturally she wanted me to go and try to get a degree as well, which I got, and I still hold a lot of resentment towards my mom for just more or less forcing me to go. I mean, I know I could have said no, this whole thing, but at that point I was just so far in, might as well finish this. It's kind of what the final year was, and that was probably the most miserable for me. Actually, I take that back. 2020 to 2021 was the most miserable time for me because we had to do everything online, and online school for me was just horrendous and made everything terrible. But how did toxic positivity get involved in all this? You might be wondering. Well, it came from people that I worked with and I kind of trusted a little bit. Mostly, I became way more depressed in those times. I mean, you can reasonably see why one would be depressed in those times. The world gone to shit. You're stuck in classes that you absolutely despise, and you just see no way out of it. Instead of actually listening to me, they just always talked about this positive mental attitude. Or, oh, I'm thinking negative all the time. You need to think positive and think happy thoughts the entire time, which, okay, yeah, maybe I should have done a little bit of that. That would have helped a little bit, but the way I view it, constantly only thinking the positives or trying to push away all the negative thoughts and all the negative things in your life is akin to an alcoholic drinking to push away all the memories or all the pain in their life and drown it with alcohol or drugs for that matter. To me, it feels like doing the exact same thing, and I have done both of those things before, where I just either just drink a night away thinking I would solve my problems and it all comes crashing down the next day, or try to be so happy, optimistic, and upbeat and it just comes back and bites me in the ass. I think I'm in decent standing to say that to a degree it is akin to it, but keep in mind I am not talking about this being positive to get through the negative times. No, it's when you start doing it or start overindulging in it to where you start pushing away everything negative, just like alcohol or a drug. That's where I think it becomes bad. So, when I was going through college at that time, a lot of people had picked up that mindset of, oh, you just need to think positive, and that's all I was ever hearing again and again and again. But while I was hearing them, what they weren't hearing was me. You know, the one person who had the problems that we wanted to talk about. I'm not saying that they didn't have problems or no one else had problems. Obviously, they all did. But we were talking specifically about me, but they wouldn't really listen to my issues. They always wanted to say, oh, you're not thinking positive, and wanted to change the subject constantly. That's kind of how it affected me. And that's kind of why I hate all this, all think positive, this positive mental attitude and all this type of stuff. I think it's a bunch of bullshit because I've been fed that for the past year, and everything just got worse every time I try to do that. I try to think positive, I try to be upbeat, and it all comes crashing down on me every time I did that. So instead of trying to keep trying to be positive at that point, you know, after the 10th time that it just came crashing down, why even bother at that point? You might as well just be miserable or go to another vice. At least then you can drown it away. I'm not saying that's a good thing either. What you need to do is you actually need to sit down and talk to somebody who actually would listen to you. And I think that's something would have benefited me, is actually finding someone that actually listens to me other than my best friend who I talk to all the time, or the two people I constantly talk to that we listen to each other. And that did help, but sometimes you need a break from the same people over and over and over again. And every time I try to talk to those, I just can't seem to find one that actually listened to my problems. And all they ever wanted to do was talk about their issues. And I guess I wasn't like assertive enough or anything to kind of make them talk about me in a more of a light of, oh, just think happier. So yeah, after feeling that entire thing of, oh, just think positive, think positive, think positive, if this wasn't working, I eventually stopped talking to this type of people, tried to figure out what else was the problem. And then I started thinking maybe I am this way. Maybe everyone else seems to have it better. There has to be something wrong with me. And what, unbeknownst to what they were doing, it's actually what that was doing started making me question my own reality on everything. It's a much more subtle form of gaslighting, though it's a much more of a backhanded one. Instead of changing people's sense of reality over a certain event, or you know, like a domestic abuse case where the abusive spouse basically manipulates their minds to deny a reality, more of a subtle thing was happening to me at the same time, where some people, not intentionally, and I do not hold anything against them, were holding this more view of you need to think positive, and started this rejecting my form of reality and more pushing their own form to say you need to do this or this is much better. Fortunately, I stopped talking to these people and actually talked to people that actually listened to my problems, which helped me out much better in the long term. So I'm much happier I got out of that way. So how did I get out of this entire depressive slump? It was mostly just graduating college and being done with it. Yeah, that was the majority. Almost all my problems were linked to college and some of the bad habits I had, like drinking a lot and sometimes smoking, were completely attributed to college. And I have more or less really curbed all those old vices that I had, I picked up from college to cope with college. I've gotten those under wraps and under control much easier. So what was the whole point of this? Was it just to knock being positive or knock any type of help? No, of course not. No, the whole point of it is this entire only good vibes, only positive mental attitude bullshit is just that. It's bullshit. To me, it seems like a really subtle form of gaslighting that doesn't care about people's actual emotions and is just a way to hide their emotions or other people's emotions in order to, I don't know, avoid having a conversation about people's problems when they'd be better off biting their tongue and actually listening to them and develop empathy, see where they're from, feel where they're from, and see if you can do anything to help them. Because talking to people that actually listened and actually wanted to hear my problems, and then they pointed me advice or kind of put me into different perspectives of it, that helped me a lot more to see other people's perspectives or help put my stuff into a different perspective. That actually helped me a lot more to move on and be ultimately a much more happier than this entire, just ignore it or good vibes only thing. That's the whole point of this entire little discussion I have, is positivity is good to a point, but when you start using positivity to dismiss other people's feelings or your own feelings, that's when it becomes toxic and you need to stop it. And I do not remember ever doing this to people because I was much more on the negative side, which, that's not good either. Toxic negativity could be considerably even worse, where you just take everything bad, just make it worse for everyone else. Obviously, that is terrible, but it's terrible to go the complete other direction, where you just dismiss people's feelings. You have to find a balance, just like an Avatar. It's a balance of things. It's not all one way or all the other way. It's a balance of happiness and sadness, because, of course, if there was no sadness, what is truly happiness? So yeah, this is something I thought about, and I kind of wanted to share a little story of me finally getting over this type of stuff and why I think this kind of positivity is total bullshit and needs to be quelled from people. But regardless, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see videos similar to this. See ya.